To me, this is a social justice issue. This is a criminal justice issue. This is about racial justice. This is about economic justice. I think the war on drugs has been an abject failure.
Stumping for recreational marijuana, Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom visits San Diego today.
The question is, where will new growth occur? And a logical location for new growth is in the unincorporated areas of the county.
A race for space. As housing prices continue to soar in San Diego County, land use has become a key issue in the race for a seat on the County Board of Supervisors.
1, 2, 3, 4.
In the boring coming out story that led to the creation of a Filipino superhero, we get a sneak peek of Lizard Boy, the rock musical. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom was in San Diego today in support of the measure that would legalize recreational marijuana in the state. KPBS reporter Steve Walsh says Newsom spoke with other proponents about the safeguards Prop 64 would put into place.
Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom was in San Diego today to talk about Proposition 64. Dispensaries like this one over on Point Loma would be a lot more common around the state if Proposition 64 passes. Newsom says he supports Proposition 64 because it would help end the drug war, which he said has always had a very strong racial component.
Drug policy in this country emanated from my city, San Francisco, as a way of going after the Chinese in the 1870s. And then we went after, quote unquote, the Mexicans with marijuana. And then we went after African Americans with crack cocaine. I mean, the whole history of the drug policy is a racial overlay. It's insidious.
California voters rejected legalizing recreational marijuana 6 years ago. Newsom said the 62-page Proposition 64 is designed to allay a number of those fears. 20% of the marijuana tax would go to retrain law enforcement. Money would also be specifically earmarked to develop standards for impaired driving. Newsom says $50 million would go to communities disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. It would also ban cartoon-shaped edibles targeted at children. Newsom expects that Proposition 64 will pass in California. If it does, expect a strong media campaign right after it does, stressing that driving while intoxicated is still illegal, as is trafficking. Reporting from Point Loma, Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Los Angeles and San Diego counties both have a dependency on cars, and both counties are asking voters for a half-cent sales tax increase to help. But there are stark differences between who is supporting each measure. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen explains.
Measure A would raise San Diego County's sales tax by 0.5% to fund transportation projects. A number of environmental groups oppose the measure. They say it won't do enough to cut greenhouse gas emissions. Nicole Capritz heads the nonprofit Climate Action Campaign. Here she is at a recent Measure A debate hosted by Voice of San Diego.
We wanted badly to say yes to this measure specifically and worked for over a year to try and collaborate with SANDAG to help craft a measure that we could support. However, in looking at every single metric that could justify locking us into a 40-year tax, we saw and we see failure.
Things have gone down very differently in Los Angeles. LA County is voting on Measure M, also a half-cent sales tax increase. It would give substantially more money to public transit projects than San Diego's Measure A. And that's one reason why environmental groups support it. Bryn Lindblad of the LA nonprofit Climate Resolve says Measure M would make public transit, biking, and walking much more viable in LA.
We're kind of crippled by traffic congestion right now. So trying to give people real options other than hopping in their car is pretty essential to improving quality of life here, to reducing greenhouse gases.
Now, both measures need a 2/3 majority to pass. For a closer look at the differences between these two tax measures, go to kpbs.org. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
One of the key San Diego races this November is for a seat on the San Diego County Board of Supervisors. KPBS North County Bureau reporter Allison St. John joins us now to talk about the tight race for the 3rd District seat currently held by Supervisor Dave Roberts. Allison?
Ebony, the current incumbent, Dave Roberts, is the only Democrat on the Board of Supervisors, and he is being challenged by the mayor of Encinitas, Republican Kristen Gaspard. Now, as we know, the price of homes in San Diego is going up, and so the pressure to build more houses is increasing. As it turns out, that has become one of the main issues in the 3rd Supervisorial District race.
All Eastern religious thought, and then the rest is philosophy.
If you visit Duncan McFetrich out in his Descanso home, you notice the books on the walls and then the pictures and maps on the ceiling.
Yeah, you look up and you see Van Gogh, right?
And here we have a map of...
And you have a map of our discussion today, you see, is about the county, right?
The unincorporated areas.
Yeah, and that's the county. All the white are the cities, technically urban.
McFetrich's map on the ceiling appears upside down, so to make it easier to read, here's a map of San Diego County the right way up. The colorful areas are the unincorporated parts of the county, and that's the area where the county supervisors have land use authority.
And I'm going to translate your unincorporated area by calling it wilderness or farmland. That is the area outside, by definition, urban areas.
McFetrich of Save Our Forest and Ranchlands was largely responsible for a citizens' initiative, which for almost 2 decades limited development in much of the Cleveland National Forest.
Watch out for the snakes.
He knows whoever is on the 5-member Board of Supervisors will have a vote on the future of San Diego's backcountry, from Valley Center in the north down to Descanso.
Those 5 districts cover the entire county, so when those 5 representatives meet, they are literally speaking for everyone. So it's not an urban versus, open space district. They represent all citizens of the entire county.
At a forum in Escondido, candidate Kristen Gaspard, the Republican mayor of Encinitas, is challenging incumbent county supervisor Dave Roberts. Roberts, the only Democrat on the board, represents the 3rd District. This covers north coastal cities up to Encinitas and the 15 corridor from Tierra Santa up to Escondido. So the San Diego County Supervisors have authority for many things. For example, law enforcement through the sheriff and the DA's office. They also take care of services for the indigent, for the homeless and the mentally ill. However, the issue that is of most interest to the people who've shown up to tonight's forum is land use. The supervisors control what gets built in the unincorporated areas of San Diego County.
You know, we've got a general plan here in the county, and I believe that the voters are really concerned about quality of life issues, and they're concerned about congestion, they're concerned about overdevelopment, and they want a supervisor that's going to stand up and say enough is enough. And that's really what I've been doing, is really making sure that we look at our communities and we don't have rampant overdevelopment.
Roberts says political action committees have contributed hundreds of thousands of dollars to his opponent's campaign, with donations from the Building Industry Association and the Associated General Contractors.
There's a reason somebody has given my opponent over $500,000. They're going to want something in return for that.
Corruption in county government is unacceptable.
Much of that PAC money has gone on TV ads attacking Roberts for problems in his office last year. Gaspard says her personal campaign has raised more money since the primary than Roberts, even without independent political action committees.
Land use is a critical issue in the county. We know that we have an affordability crisis throughout the county. We have a dwindling amount of precious open space. It's going to take someone who's pretty special to be able to balance those two interests. The only way to resolve some of the affordability crisis is to diversify the housing options that are available throughout the region. And one major role of the county board is to make sure that we do diversify the housing opportunities throughout the region.
Matt Adams of the San Diego Building Industry Association says there's a reason money is pouring into this race.
Jurisdictions, they hold the keys to everything. They tell us what we can build, where we can build it, when we can build it, and how much can we build. They hold the keys to everything. They're our partners in the land use business.
Longtime political consultant Tom Shepard says as urban neighborhoods fight more density, the battle over the backcountry is heating up.
Most of the cities in San Diego County are largely built out. There's not going to be significant new residential growth in most cities, and in most cities, voters are reluctant to approve further densification in their own neighborhoods. So the question is, where will new growth occur? And a logical location for new growth is in the unincorporated areas of the county.
This election is just the beginning of what will be a major shift on the County Board of Supervisors. After more than 2 decades of very little change, Shepard says term limits will kick in 2 years. Within 4 years, everyone on the board today will be gone.
Supervisor Ron Roberts' seat is likely in 2018, when he's termed out, likely to be represented by a Democrat. And in 2020, Supervisor Greg Cox's seat is likely to be represented by a Democrat. So this will end up, District 3 ends up being a potential swing seat.
The battle over District 3 takes on major long-term implications when seen in that light. Back in Descanso, McFetrich says he too is for development.
We should be encouraging development in the right place. We need houses. We need a beautiful city. So the problem is, historically, right, the easy money is in sprawl.
McFetrich knows the pressure will be on the supervisors to allow more development in backcountry sprawl. In the meantime, he'll feed his chickens and let the voters figure it out.
Observers tell me that this will be a tight race, which is unusual when there's an incumbent running. So it'll be worth watching on election night. Live in North County, I'm Allison St. John. Back to you, Ebony.
Thanks, Allison. This November, California voters will face 2 starkly different options in dealing with the death penalty: Prop 62, which aims to end it, and Prop 66, which intends to reform the death penalty system. KCET's Val Zavala gives us a quick look at Prop 62.
Prop 62 in 1 minute. Here we go. Prop 62 would abolish the death penalty in California and replace it with life in prison without parole. Even prisoners currently on death row would have their sentences changed to life behind bars. Supporters say besides being morally wrong, our death penalty is a sham. They point out that it's been 10 years since a prisoner was executed and that most of the nearly 750 inmates on death row will die of natural causes. It also costs taxpayers $150 million a year in legal fees. Plus, there are innocent people on death row who should be freed, not executed. Now, the opponents of Prop 62 agree the system is broken, but they say ending capital punishment is not the answer. That would be a slap in the face of the more than 1,000 families whose loved ones were murdered. Instead, the system should be reformed, and they've proposed Prop 66 to do that. So a yes vote on Prop 62 means you want to end the death penalty in California. A no vote means you want to keep it. Now, what if both of these competing propositions pass? Well, the one with the most votes wins.
You can find all of our election coverage online at kpbs.org/voter guide. That's where you can find more in-depth information on candidates, plus local and state ballot measures. Immigration has been an issue of debate and conversation this election season, with Donald Trump discussing plans to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. But recent numbers show immigrants are more likely to come from Asia than Mexico or Latin America. AP reporter Alan Breed has the story.
Mansi Gopala is riding the latest wave of U.S. immigration. A software engineer originally from India, she's now a U.S. citizen living in North Carolina. At a recent Indian Independence Day celebration, Governor Pat McCrory encouraged more people like Gopala to settle here.
This is the best of America. This is the best of India. We work together. We learn together. We can pray together.
The Mexican border has dominated the public conversation this presidential election. Calls to send the 11+ million unauthorized immigrants home and build a wall like this to keep them out. But government data show that immigrants today are more likely to look like Gopala, Asian and highly educated. Recent census figures show India and China eclipsed Mexico as the top sources of U.S. immigrants, documented and undocumented. Growing up in teeming Bangalore, India's high-tech capital, Gopala's first taste of American culture was from watching Star Trek on TV when she was 6.
If there is a possibility of building a USS Enterprise, the best chances are in America. If cancer can be a cure for cancer be found anywhere in the world, I think the best chances are in America.
Millions of others chose a different path to America. This man crossed the Mexican border illegally 19 years ago and settled in North Carolina. He asked that the AP not give his name or exact location because he is concerned about possible deportation, but he wanted people to see his face and hear his story. With little English and just 6 years of schooling, his options were limited. Like so many of his countrymen, he ended up in the tobacco fields.
Hot days, cold days, and rain days, we need work. No stop.
2 years later, his wife and 2 children joined him. They also had to work in the fields.
When you see your children come in the house and tired and say, "Oh, Daddy, it's hard."
More Mexicans left the country than came in recent years. But Dan Stein of the Federation for American Immigration Reform says rampant importation of labor on both ends of the spectrum is what's killing the middle class.
We've created dependency for highly skilled labor on the high end for our technological advantage, and we're also importing massive numbers of lower skilled workers than the average American worker without any obvious economic reason in a post-industrial information world.
But University of North Carolina demographer James Johnson says that with a graying population, the U.S. needs the low-skilled workers as much as engineers and doctors.
I feel critical needs in our labor market. We typically talk about the 3D job, the difficult, the dirty, and the dangerous. You don't like to do them, so we have to have someone to do them.
The Mexican immigrant is thankful for what America has given him, but he says he has also given back. 2 years ago, he left the tobacco fields and opened a Mexican grocery and restaurant in his adopted hometown.
And pay the water has taxes, pay the power has taxes, pay the gasoline has taxes.
He still has no legal status, but to him, this is home.
For me, this is my pueblo. I love this place.
Gopala became a citizen in 2013. She says President Obama's words in the letter accompanying her certificate express her feelings better than she ever could.
You represent the promise of American dream, and because of your determination, this great nation is now your nation.
She's convinced diversity is America's greatest strength, and she hopes her adopted country will keep moving in that direction. Alan Breed, Associated Press, Raleigh, North Carolina.
Time for an upgrade. U.S. Census Bureau officials say they're leaving pen and paper behind for a new online system. The system will allow everyone to answer online from computers or cell phones. Officials say the move may increase participation and save a lot of money.
We will save $5 billion in the next census just by incorporating some features to make us more efficient. Internet response is one of them, but also things like how we deploy our field staff to go knock on doors.
The next census is set for the year 2020. Vista is the latest San Diego County city to do away with its red light camera program. This week, city leaders voted to phase out cameras. Opponents argue they're too expensive and violate drivers' privacy rights. The photo enforcement cameras are at 5 Vista intersections, and they're set to come down at the end of the year. We're going to see an increase of cloud coverage in the morning and afternoons here in San Diego with mild temps through early next week. Shanae Shocker has that and more in tonight's forecast.
A low pressure system pushing onto the northwest coast of Oregon as well as Washington, bringing some strong downpours to areas in the northwest as well as northern California, and some clouds down into central California. But here in San Diego, we really aren't seeing too much of that at all. As you check out the radar, nothing on the radar, even as far as cloud cover goes, maybe just slight. But looking ahead into this evening, temperatures in the low 60s, 62 degrees for tonight, and we'll have some increasing cloud cover throughout the evening. Now, as we take a look at the county, check it out. Very nice temperatures across the board for your fall. Out in San Diego, 62. In Ramona, 46. Down in Alpine, 49 degrees. Mount Laguna, 44. And you head out to Mecca, definitely warmer, 64 degrees out there for this evening. As we head into our Friday, we're going to see some warming conditions along Southern California and into the deserts. Off to our north, if you were planning to head to Northern California or areas of the Northwest, definitely going to be having some rain and dangerous road conditions out there because of that low pressure system. So as we head out to the coast, let's see what is going on for your 5-day outlook. Sitting very nice and pretty. Friday, 72 degrees. We will have some low clouds in the morning. Those will begin to break up throughout the day. And you move into Saturday as well as Sunday, sitting in the mid-70s for your weekend. Mostly clear skies. A beautiful day to get outdoors. Check out Monday and Tuesday. That's going to repeat the weekend, 74 and 75 for your highs to start the beginning of your work week next week. Now, as we head inland, similar conditions continue here as well. Beautiful temperatures across the board. We will have periods of sun and some nice weather. Our lows getting down into the 50s, so cool enough to grab a jacket for your evenings as you head out to dinner. But it will be continuing to be quite nice. Into the mountains, we see much cooler conditions actually as we head into the weekend as well as the start of next week. We're dropping into the upper 60s for your Saturday and Sunday. Now these lows are getting into the low 40s come Monday. Check that out. 41 degrees for your Monday low, 46 on Tuesday. So getting chillier, beginning to feel like fall as well. And last but not least, the deserts, they're still warm, but check this out. On a cool down, 96 degrees for tomorrow for your high. We'll drop down to 92 come Saturday and Sunday. And then by the beginning of your work week, we're back in the upper 80s and low 90s. I'm Shanae Shocker, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next News Hour, making sense of why a growing number of CEOs are not supporting the Republican Party's choice for president. That's Thursday on the PBS News Hour.
Lizard Boy is currently playing at San Diego's Diversionary Theater. It follows an unlikely hero who was disfigured in a freak accident. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando looks at the evolution of Lizard Boy from a one-man show in Seattle to a 3-person comic book rock musical now playing in San Diego.
Justin Huertas thought his coming out story was too dull, so
I made up a story where I came out, nobody cared, but I had lizard skin, and no one talked to me because of the lizard skin, and that was the reason why my life was so difficult.
Take off your costume, wash off the makeup, and relax a little bit.
I can't wash off the makeup.
Oh, you want to stay in the costume?
It's not a costume.
just think of the character of Trevor as Justin's parallel universe alter ego.
I wanted to be a superhero because I didn't really have like an Asian or Filipino superhero to look up to. There weren't really any of those on TV.
Lizard Boy began life as a one-man show at Seattle Repertory Theater. Director Brendan Ivey has been helping it evolve for 4 years.
This is really kind of an origin story. If the character of Trevor is our comic book hero, this is like his origin story.
Trevor's origin story involves dragon blood, children, and a playground. It's a bit messy.
I was there, Jason, on the playground. I was there. The blood on my neck, and I got my siren song. What is your power?
I don't have a power.
Of course you do.
I had a lot of insecurities growing up with the color of my skin, with how I looked. And so in creating this kind of metaphor with this character, I wanted something that some people, maybe the person might think is like disgusting and ugly, but it's actually beautiful and powerful.
1, 2, 3, 4. Comic books, rock music, dragon's blood. It's hard to make all that fit into one neat tagline to describe the show.
It is a coming-of-age comic book superhero origin story.
X-Men meets Once meets Grindr.
30 Rock meets Spider-Man.
It's like a gay romantic comedy in the style of a comic book.
Told by a 3-person folk rock band.
You just don't see that on stage, really.
William A. Williams plays the romantic interest in the play. And Kirsten Delore Helland is, well, the villain?
I really don't like to say that she's the villain. I don't think that I am. I have very good intentions.
She's also the one most heavily invested in the comic book world. But don't worry if comics aren't your thing.
You're not being alienated by the fact that it is a comic book musical if you don't know anything about comic books at all. We lay it out for you very clearly.
It's definitely a snowball show too. Like once we get going,
we don't stop until it's done.
We do not stop. We're all in it, moving, singing, playing.
Sweating.
Sweating.
So much sweat.
A little bit.
But it's sexy.
For Delore Helland, it's also about pushing boundaries.
I don't think that I know that I've never, ever seen anything like this show before. In its style, like the fact that the three of us are on stage the entire time. We are the instrumentalists. We are the prop movers. We are the stagehands. We are the actors. We are the singers. We do it all, and I've never seen anything like that.
Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society. I call this story The Tale of the Mount St. Helens Monster.
I'm hoping that the fact that it's so different and so original is going to make people kind of sit up and take notice.
I hope that audiences see themselves in Trevor, someone who's having trouble accepting who they are, and it's the process of accepting the things that you think make you weak, but they're actually the things that make you different and unique and beautiful and powerful.
Lizard Boy, like a good comic book, uses familiar tropes to tell a story that can resonate with serious ideas, but have a lot of fun along the way. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Lizard Boy has just been extended through November 6th at Diversionary Theater in University Heights. Bob Dylan just became the first musician to win a Nobel Prize for Literature today. The decision has sparked some backlash from literary figures. Award officials say he got it for expanding the poetic possibilities of music in songs like Mr. Tambourine Man and Like a Rolling Stone. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.